Hello, everyone. Welcome to our March edition of The Pitch. Excited to be coming to you from our new studio here in Redmond, Washington at StockCharts headquarters. And in celebration of International Women's Day, we're super excited to have three fantastic women technical analysts who are legitimate technical analysts in their own right each. But it's really cool to have the three of them together and have a really good conversation. I want to welcome each of our three panelists. Mish Schneider, who's the Director of Education and Research at MarketGauge, coming to us from New Mexico. Aaron Swendlin, VP and Senior Technical Analyst at Decision Point, coming to us from Southern California. And also from Southern California, we have Mary Ellen McGonigal. She's the Senior Managing Director of Equities at Simpler Trading. Mish, Mary Ellen, Aaron, thank you guys so much for joining us. Welcome back to The Pitch.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Yeah, very excited, especially to be with all of the wonderful women analysts that I adore.
100% agreed. And it was fun before just talking about how we all got to see each other at ChartCon last year, which was a lot of fun. But the three of you in particular, a really, really cool conversation. I'm excited to bring some of your expertise together. Also, I've had each of you on my show, and Aaron, we're going to be on today with talking about the markets. And so I've had a bit of a touch with each of you, just a check-in on where you're at. So I'm excited to kind of have a conversation together and see what sense we can make of things. It wouldn't be The Pitch if it wasn't a pretty climactic, volatile day in the markets. And so that's exactly what we're getting so far. As we're going here, we're seeing the market sort of rotate lower. And so we'll think about what this means and also try to connect it to the longer term trends overall. If those of you that have not been a part of The Pitch before, just so you guys know, we will have each of our three panelists provide one pick each, and then we'll go around the horn, round robin, until we get to 5 stock and ETF ideas from each of them. Then the second half of the show, we'll talk about them as a group, see what insights and ideas we can tease out. Mish Schneider, we're going to start with you. Thank you so much for sending some picks ahead of time. We're going to start with your first idea, which is Rumble On, ticker RMBL. What's the thesis here?
Well, first, I just wanted to come on and say, are we ready to rumble?
Noted.
So I like it here in particular. It's sort of outperforming what we're seeing, what's going on in the market right now. But if you look at the three different scenarios that I have here on the chart, the first thing, of course, you see is the 50-day moving average. That's the blue line on the price, which with today's action, it's coming back above, although it's inside the big down bar yesterday. And then if we go down to the performance versus the SPY on our ACP plugin, it's kind of on par right here. So that would be interesting. And then if we go down even further on the real motion indicator, it's actually already in a divergence because it's been over the blue line, the 50-day moving average, and it's clearing over the 200. So the momentum, certainly we're seeing that today with it being up over 3%, and the price has to do a little catch up. So essentially what I'm thinking here is that if it closes over 850 and then confirms, let's say, the next day, that would be a pretty good signal. Well, I think a pretty good tight risk, maybe down to 775 to just give it a little wiggle room.
Not bad, and an interesting sort of consolidation period. Potentially we're sort of moving back to the upper end of that congestion area. Thanks for that first pitch, Mish Schneider. Mish, we're to your pick number 2. We're going going overseas to Tencent Music Entertainment, ticker TME. What's the thesis here?
Well, again, streaming, entertainment, these are all things that we've been looking at. But the stuff that hasn't been the typical areas, like, for example, Netflix. So this is really more, it's a Chinese stock. And I wanted to look at something that was actually outperforming in China in an area that I think has potential growth. And this fits the bill. It also happens to be something that I covered in my outlook for 2023. So I think we're looking here at a weekly chart. Yes, we are. And so you can see it's well above the 50-week, which is the blue. It's talk about a period of consolidation. It's in a tremendous period of consolidation right now. Needs a little bit more work to really get going here because it's had a little bit of heaviness, obviously, along with the market. But it is outperforming the SPY on a weekly basis. We just don't have enough information there to really gauge the momentum indicator because it's such a new stock. But nonetheless, I would like to see all of this consolidation be taken out to the upside. And then I think you have a really pretty good risk here to, really basically under these recent lows. I wouldn't go crazy sitting with this forever. But if it firms up and takes up from here, I think it has a lot of upside, at least to that 200-week moving average, if not higher.
You're shaking up timeframes on us and everything, and I really appreciate this walk through the weekly chart, Mish. That's actually really, really interesting. I have my mind is racing with things to address in form of questions, and I promise we will get to them all, but I really appreciate it. Mish, we're to your pick number 3. We are now going to agriculture, and I know you have a background trading ag contracts, and so interested to get your take on something like corn in this environment. What's the thesis here?
Well, there's 2 charts I sent you for a reason. This one that you're looking at right now is the ETF of corn on a monthly chart. And so I have been really big. I think this year, the 23-month moving average has been the savior in terms of my analysis, but also very, very telling in terms of where you should be looking. And the reason why is it's 2 years, right? So you got 2021, really bullish, 2022, really bearish, 2023, we don't really know yet, right? So anything that is above the 23-month tells me that even if it's retracing there, it's retracing still a better business cycle. And we know, obviously, grains have come off a lot from the top, and especially when we take a look at the daily chart here, this has come off a lot and went into a bearish phase. But the divergence between the monthly time frame, which is still very much in a bull monthly trend, versus the daily was compelling. So we can go to the daily chart. Okay, so now you can see the day we had the big low and reversal recently. Yeah, you're right there. Okay, we have a scanner that looks for that kind of bottom. We call that a glass bottom. And basically what that means is you get a new 60-day low, or it could happen on a high. It's a one-day reversal, and then it closes in the top 25% of the trading range. And so what happens is that not only, and especially if it's on good volume, otherwise it would not come up on the scanner. So what that tells us right now is that, kind of like we've seen in so many instruments, there's sort of this exhaustion bottom that happens, and that's what we're looking at here. And as long as that low stays below, it gives you a very tight risk opportunity. So now what's happened since? Immediately, it started to look like it was going to rally over the last couple of days, and now it's come off. Obviously, strong dollar, hawkish talk by the Fed, et cetera, always affects commodities in general. But I think at this point, it's worth noting that if we can get through 2550, we're seasonally in the potential disruption to a growing season, whether it would be tremendous rain or tremendous drought. We obviously have food demand that could be rising. Looking at sugar, which looks completely different, is telling us food demand is still there. So that's what I'm looking at. 2550 clears, I'd like it. And like I said, you've got a really tight risk to under the low of that day, which I believe was like 24 or something. If you click on it, we can see what it was exactly.
Yeah, it's so interesting. And with a number of these charts we've hit, it strikes me there's sort of what I always call a natural stop, right? There's sort of that really clear previous low to sort of key in on. That's a perfect example with the corn ETF, ticker CORN. Mish, we're to your 4th pick, Teva Pharmaceuticals, TEVA. What's the thesis here?
Well, actually, it's having some struggles today, but up until today, this is, again, a weekly time frame. So I always like to look out so that I can see where relative support is coming in from a longer place than just on a daily. And up until today, this was actually holding above the 200-week moving average. It's now breaking it, but it's still holding the 50-week. So essentially, here was the theory, is Teva was it's an Israeli pharmaceutical company, and it was one of the companies that got into big trouble with the opioid crisis. And they finally this year settled the suit, which means that all the litigation they were going through for years is over. They cannot be resued on that. And so I thought that was a boon for it. And you can see when that was settled, if you go back in time a little bit, how it just rallied like crazy in July. And since then came off and looked like it was just in this holding pattern. Now today it's having a little bit of struggle. Could be a fresh round of opioid crisis news that hasn't really nothing to do with them, just getting caught up in it. Could be the fact that Israel right now is having a lot of its own geopolitical problems, and this is getting some of the impact of that. But nonetheless, this is a stock that has already proven it can have some legs. It's still slightly outperforming the SPY on the weekly basis. We did have a mean reversion right near the highs on the momentum indicator, but we're right at the zero line, well above the 50. So I'd give it a little breathing room here. But if we can kind of hold around these levels, say 9 to 950, establish a new base, or this is a one-day drop, just a week, shake out week longs, and tomorrow we can get back up over, say, 950, then you would have another really low-risk opportunity to get in.
Ooh, beautiful. And you're hitting all the time frames here in 5 charts, which is pretty awesome, Mish. Thanks for that on Teva Pharmaceuticals. All right, let's get through our last picks, and then I'm dying to have a conversation with the group together. Mish, your 5th pick is actually going outside the U.S., the Vietnam ETF, ticker VNM. What's the idea here?
Well, I always like to look for something a little bit different. And since we're so U.S.-centric, other than obviously the Tencent, which is, and also even the Rumble, I am looking out beyond the United States, but I would be hesitant about a lot of the Asian countries. But this really caught my eye, Vietnam. First of all, in terms of manufacturing, they have really grown, and their economy overall has done very, very well. One of the reasons they've been under a lot of pressure is because their real estate market actually got a little too rich. And of course, any signs of global recession will clearly impact Vietnam as well. But then in terms of our relationship with China, considering we are still addicted to cheap goods, even with all of the rhetoric about trying to break our ties, Vietnam is somewhere now where a lot of the clothing made in the that we see in the USA, not made in the USA, is actually made in Vietnam. So I keep looking for all these little signs, and I bought a dress, for example, and all of a sudden I saw it was made in Vietnam. So this was all the type of things that I thought maybe this stock or this country fund has been very undervalued. And so looking at the chart, that clearly looks like it could be the case. Now, before I told you about a glass bottom that comes up on our scanner when it's a one-day reversal, this is actually a 2-day reversal called a brick wall. But it's the same idea. You get the new low, new 60-plus day low, but instead of it the next day having a different range, it has an inside day, which is what we had the next day, from the day before of that actual bottom, and then the gap up the next day, which is what this had. So I think the selling is done here. If you look at the leadership indicator, the plug-in, it's not quite yet outperforming the SPY, but it looks like it can certainly take leadership. And here again, if we take a look at the momentum indicator, it's very close to the 50, hasn't taken it out, but look how far the price is compared to the momentum. So momentum is starting to shift along with the price reversal. Fundamental, I can certainly support Vietnam possibly doing a lot better. And again, since I like to see areas clear, getting over 1170 at this point. And then you have 2 choices. You can risk to under that low, which I believe was like 1113, or take it down a little bit if you like round numbers, particularly if you're only risking about $1 or 70 cents under 11. And, I don't know where this can go to the upside. Obviously, it has headwinds like everything else, but I love the risk reward.
There was a fantastic little anecdotal Peter Lynch feel to your pitch there, which is awesome because the idea for this show, the pitch came from the 2-minute drill that Peter Lynch created at Fidelity years and years ago. So thanks for that gentle nod back to the origins of the show, Mish. Whether or not you intended it, that was brilliant. We'll start with Mish Schneider of Market Gauge. We have 5 ideas from her. Rumble on, RMBL. We went with Tencent Music Entertainment, TME, which is a Chinese name, going to agriculture with the corn ETF, CORN. Teva Pharmaceuticals, TEVA, and then again outside the U.S. with the Vietnam ETF, VNM.